sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girls, but Greg Berlanti accidentally added extra ingredients to the concoction.
Regrets and existential dread.
Hey guys, Omni here. After such a fantastic weekend with DC fandom shaking the superhero fandom to the core with all the great reveals, it just is not stopping. Today, we got another huge piece of news coming straight from the master of the Arrowverse itself, Greg Berlanti. We will be getting a live-action Powerpuff Girls series. Let that sink in for a second. The CW is going to be putting on a live-action Powerpuff Girls show. It's being written by Juno writer Diablo Cody, as well as Veronica Mars's Heather Regnier. This is being put together by Berlanti Productions and Vita Vera Films. And the premise is this. Powerpuff Girls used to be America's pint-sized superheroes. Now they're disillusioned 20-somethings who resent having lost their childhood to crime fighting. Will they agree to reunite now that the world needs them more than ever? I think the idea behind the show is in the vein of their success with Riverdale, what they've done with adapting the Archie comics into that show, and then the minor success of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix. You know, we've also heard tale that there's a Scooby-Doo show in the production, but that's not what we're going to be talking about here today. But I'm just curious how this is going to work and what you guys think of it. I grew up watching these shows on Cartoon Network when I was growing up, and that being a Warner Brothers property, that's definitely does fall under their jurisdiction at this point. But how do you feel about that? It's a little interesting to take. It's a different version of a superhero story to put a twist on. Now, how much are they going to adapt this? They are saying this technically follows up from where we saw them as children fighting crime with their powers and all of that. And I'm curious how that's going to translate into live action. Like, I wouldn't even call this teen drama because they're not teens, they're 20-somethings, but it's kind of along that kind of line, especially with how we know how the CW operates and the types of shows that it puts on. They are essentially soap operas with a different theme to them. And I think that's even apparent in the Arrowverse, even though I really dig it. And I really get absorbed into all the drama that happens into those, as well as the superhero fighting that goes into it. Now, with the way this premise is being set up, I'm wondering how that balance is going to be involved. How much of their powers are going to play into their menial adult lives at this point? What are their villains up to? The Gangrene Gang, him, Mojo Jojo. How are they going to be depicted? They obviously still have to exist in this world. There's a lot of questions that could come about from this. There's a lot of ways this can go. I can tell you one thing. I can't wait to see who they cast as Sedusa. And of course, Miss Cerebellum. And who's going to be the mayor of Townsville? I mean, this is really interesting. They could really kind of do something intriguing with this premise, though I'm always going to be like, why? How did we get here? It always takes me back to that fan-made Power Rangers, gritty, dark, edgy Power Rangers film that was floating around YouTube for a while. And a lot of people really gravitated into that. Of course, me being a purist, I was like, not my Power Rangers with all the drugs, the murder, and all that stuff. And I don't know, man. I don't know, when it's something like something I grew up with. It's I don't know. I get a little I get disillusioned myself when I see that happen. When I see the innocence and the heart taken away from it. It just beats me over the head with the realization of life, of course, that, some things work out that way. Sometimes things don't always go as planned. Sometimes stuff gets out of control and you lose track of your life. And, I don't like being reminded of that a lot of the time, but who knows? This could be interesting. I'm not hopeful, especially given what kind of budget is this going to have, for one. Again, I think that'll only kind of come into play with how their powers kind of are going to be incorporated into this, if at all. What are they even doing in their 20-somethings? What did they go to school for? Did they go to school? How did they go to school and fight crime? I kind of get the idea of it. The fact that they grew up so young and fighting crime all that time, they rarely were in school. Most of the time, they had to leave school to go fight crime. Half the time, school got destroyed. I mean, there are some ideas in this to unpack and tackle, but again, it's the Powerpuff Girls. Now, you want to do something good or interesting, give me a gritty Dexter's Lab. That would be interesting. all the twisted experiments he could be doing, Mandark, Dee Dee, the whole family, the crew in that. You could really come up with some cool ideas out of that. And I think that fits into that a little bit more, especially with the grounded into the science, how, much of a genius he was, how you could play into how that affected his adult life, how that affected his high school years, even from where we left him last, being a bit of an outsider. And then you could definitely take Dexter's arc and take that into a sinister area in a way. I think that would be pretty. I'd like to see that, to be honest. But I think that given the right writing, and I think I love Juno. I mean, that thing was a real slice of life and hit hard in a lot of ways. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not really a feel good movie a lot throughout most of it, but I don't know. I think if they put a decent spin on this, it could work. I'm just curious how much the fantastical elements of this show are going to translate into live action. What are they going to do with Fuzzy Lumpkins or like I said, the Gangrene Gang? I guarantee we will see the Rowdy Rough Boys, or maybe as a part of their adult evolution, they are in these horrible relationships at this point in their lives with their Rowdy Rough counterparts. That would be funny to see how that played out. What's Professor Utonium doing with his daughters all grown up and out in the world, separated, no longer even hanging out together or whatever this, because it did hint that they're not together, that they need to get back together in order to fight whatever is coming their way. I don't know. Maybe the more I talk about it, the more interesting this thing kind of gets, but it all comes down to the execution and how they handle it. And I mean, if the writing's good, if they can get a solid story out of this, sure, I'll bite. I will more than likely still check this out of morbid curiosity to begin with, or if they show us a really eye-catching trailer for this whenever they get into production. And still, man, when you they did announce not too long ago that they're looking at doing like a Riverdale-esque Scooby-Doo in the gang as well. I don't know, man. They're going through all kinds of these wholesome old school properties, and I say old school, like Powerpuff Girls is like a classic. I mean, I guess for kids these days it would be, but I remember when that first aired. I'm just getting old, man. All right, guys. I want to know your thoughts. What are your feelings with this entire situation, this announcement? How do you feel about seeing the sweet innocent Powerpuff Girls being just life beaten, disillusioned, regret filled, self-loathing adults like the rest of us? Sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll carry on the conversation after the video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care, everybody.